So last week we talked about the difference between the trigger and the reaction. And you might recall seeing this. Um, a lot of us get triggered in some way. Somebody says something or does something or doesn't, and boom, we have this reaction. But what we talked about was actually in between the trigger and the reaction, there's actually a whole lot of other stuff going on. And we talked about the patterns of protection that actually try to keep us safe. So what we're going to do is talk a little bit more about the patterns of protection this time. And we're like, why are they there? What are they helping us do? And then once I notice this pattern of protection, because there's several, and you'll notice which one is most common for you, it's like, then what? Then what do I do? So realizing that we can know something, but that's not necessarily, like, be aware of it, it's not necessarily going to change it. And if you think about somebody who says they recognize, they are aware that they smoke or drink or eat too much or scroll too much or whatever, that's not going to stop or change the behavior unless something else happens, right? We've got to do something in order for that behavior to change. So just being aware isn't enough, right? But we hear people say that all the time. We hear the gurus say things like, just become more aware, just catch yourself, pause. It's like, pause? Well, if I knew how to pause, then I would do that more often. Or what do you do during a pause? Because if you don't know what to do, you haven't learned that skill, you still feel lost, right? And then the person saying it, I don't know, I hope they don't say it in a way that makes you feel like you're failing or broken or something. But I think a lot of times there's the misperception that because they've already experienced it, that you recognize what they mean when they say it. And I know that that's not what happens. I know that just because somebody tells me, let it go, I don't know how to let it go. I do now. But for the long time, I didn't. And, pause. It's like, what does that mean? Stop? Like just pause. So there's more to some of the words and the expressions. And in this case, the expression of awareness. We can become aware, and that is absolutely required. But that's just step one. There's more steps, right? Okay, so again, awareness is important, but you guys, I'm on a new keyboard, and it's not working very well for me. Let me see if I can work something out here. I'm going to try. So it's awareness by itself is not enough. And most people that I work with, they are already incredibly self-aware. They already know that they're overthinking, or that they're people-pleasing, or that they're second-guessing themselves, right? Or procrastinating, or whatever it is that you're doing. You're like, yeah, I know I do that. I don't need you to tell me that. And I get that, right? So the problem isn't that you have a lack of self-awareness. The problem is that you may not have learned the inner skills that help you figure out what to do when that, oh yeah, I'm doing that thing again, shows up. So it's not, I don't think that you need more willpower. I think that it's not like you need more awareness. You've already got plenty. You need the right skills, and not just any skills. You need the right skills. So if you did watch the video last week, I talked about there was a squirrel, and this squirrel was in a cage, and how it was making noise and trying to get out. And I talked all about that. But I also talked about what happened inside of me when I was experiencing the squirrel and what was going on. And one of the things was I had started overthinking, and I was like, what do I do? And do I call those people, or, should I interfere? How do I not interfere? I was going through all the overthinking. But in time, I realized I'm trying to figure out the perfect scenario, if that's even possible. But I was trying, like, how do I make everyone happy? How do I come up with something that's like works for like making the perfect decision? And I was overthinking, I didn't want to upset anybody. It was a really tough time. But then my friend said, I think you're overthinking this. And that's when everything shifted. And the thing is, she said those words, and because I know the skills, I was able to stop in my tracks and go, holy cow, that is exactly what I'm doing. And I was able to go through the little steps, right? Work my steps and shift my thinking to something else. And I know in the past I would not have been able to do that. By her saying those words, she didn't solve my problem. She didn't tell me what to do. She simply helped me recognize this pattern of protection. And in being able to recognize what was going on with it, I was able to have the opportunity to choose something different. So even though I wasn't consciously saying, how can I make everyone happy? That's what I was trying to do because of the way my life was. I was always trying to figure out, well, how can I make them happy? Because I don't want anything bad to happen, right? Or I don't want them upset with me or whatever. I don't know if you do those kinds of things, but it's hard. It's really hard. And we'll do those things automatically unless we become aware of them. So I got to be able to shift from how do I make everybody happy to what choice is most aligned with what matters to me. That was a huge, huge shift. And it actually felt really good because all the scattered thinking was able to calm down, and I was able to focus on the one thing. What was the right choice for me in that moment? So our goal when these things happen and learning the skills, learning to recognize what's happening, learning the skills so that we can put the skills into play. It's not about eliminating fear or eliminating triggers or even eliminating overthinking or people pleasing, which is, of course, patterns of protection. It's about recognizing that pattern of protection early enough so it doesn't automatically start making the decision for you. Now, as you can probably recognize in my example, I was already in the pattern. But when she said, I think you're overthinking, I was able to say, whoa, stop, wait, what? And in that, it stopped, like I said, the onslaught of all the extra thoughts, and I was able to focus, and that made all the difference in the world. That is a different goal, to be able to try to say, stop that pattern of protection, or see it, recognize it early enough so it doesn't take over, because it was taking over. And I don't know how long I would have sat in that discomfort trying to figure out all the possible answers had she not said that. But her saying that made me realize, whoa, I am in that. How do I slow it down, stop it, change it, shift it? Now, being that I've done this enough times, I was able to do it fairly quickly. But as you saw, I got in the middle of it, but I was able to shift out of it quickly. Hopefully, I get better and better, and I won't even go there, because I can tell you something else happened where I started to overthink, and I actually caught myself quickly. And I was like, I'm overthinking because I'm trying to find the perfect solution. That's not my job. It's not my job anymore. My job is to pay attention to what's the best and right decision for me. Okay, so I guess I'm saying, life doesn't suddenly just become easier. It doesn't make things go away, but you navigate it a different way so that you're like responding in the way that actually feels good and feels right for you. Okay. So I think a lot of times people think that, well, they just need the one breakthrough. Like, oh, I think you're overthinking. Oh yeah, I was overthinking, and then one and done. But I don't think that's true. I think that we need to practice. I know that I do when I learn that new skill, and it doesn't even have to be like one of these inner skills. It could be anything, like learning to drive. I mean, before I got behind the wheel of a car, I had driven mopeds, I guess they were called back then, go-karts, riding lawnmowers. I had driven things in a car is different, right? But I was able to draw from those skills so that when it was time to draw the car, I could at least have a frame of reference. And for those of you that cook, you can think of that same thing, right? You've got lots of thoughts about how to cook and what to cook, but if you come up against a newer, higher level, I guess you could call it, recipe, you might have to learn some new things or do things a little bit differently than you've done before. If those aren't resonating quite good enough, think about you get a new app on your phone or a new game to play. You can draw from all the skills you already have, but then there's some new stuff you need to learn. And when you go back to it later, you may have to be reminded and practice a little bit more. And then you're like, oh yeah, I remember now. And you just get better and better at it. That's what this is like. Self-sustaining leadership is no different than that. As we practice, as we're consistently using the skills, our lives just get better and better and better. So the next time you notice yourself overthinking or people pleasing, second guessing, all of that stuff, or any of that stuff, maybe ask yourself a different question. So instead of, oh God, I wish I wasn't feeling this way, how do I make this go away? Maybe you think about something like, what pattern of protection might be showing up right now? Okay. What we just talked about, this is the main core of what I want to share today. And I want to also talk about the patterns of protection, which is a framework I put together. So the rest of this video is basically going to be an explanation about this piece of paper right here. So for those of you that are not familiar with the patterns of protection, I was going to say power of, I might have to come up with something else. Power of protection? No, I don't like that one. Anyway, we'll do that later. If you're not familiar with the powers of protection, I just said it again. The patterns of protection, wow, there must be something in that. Again, the rest of this video is going to be about me sharing this framework. And I put it together because I think it helps explain more about why it happens and when it happens and then what we do on the inside. And that may help you identify, become more aware of, see what's happening, recognize it. And so let's go over that. As you can see, we have some rows and some columns. This column right here is going to relate to this one row, or it can relate to this other second row, or third or fourth. You get how it goes. So there's a toward protection. Toward protection means, oh my gosh, I have to lean in, people please, figure it out, be perfect, because in order for me to feel good about this or feel better, I feel like I have to do something so that you don't go away. I'm leaning towards you. Then there is the distancing protection. That one is, okay, I'm flipping out, I'm freaking out, I can't handle it, I'm backing up, right? So one's moving towards the person, the other one's backing up. This third one is the push-pull. This is the push-pull protection where I got to do both. I feel very uncomfortable unless I'm kind of doing both. So I'm leaning in, but I'm also pulling back. So let's go down this side and see how these sound together. So if you are a people pleaser, if you are trying to figure out how to make it perfect so everybody stays happy with you, you would call that toward protection. And when pressure hits, you fear losing connection. So what do you tend to do? Overfunction for others. Sound familiar? Seek reassurance in some way. Or, and what happens is it often creates overcommitment and exhaustion. So if you're someone that says yes instead of saying no, this is the column for you. That doesn't mean it's your only column, but definitely this one. Practice helps you build your own self-trust and steadiness so that these things can begin to dissipate, okay? This one is the distancing protection. So when pressure hits, I fear emotional exposure. I'm terrified that you're gonna figure out what's going on with me and that maybe I need you. So I tend to disconnect. This happens in regular life, but also in business. I'm hoping you can see these and they're not too blurry. This often creates disconnection and missed opportunities, shutting down, not participating, running away, going away. It's very challenging, but practicing the inner skills of self-sustaining leadership help you stay emotionally present. And that's done on a very tiny incremental movement forward as the person feels comfortable moving forward. It's sort of like being exposed to it, and it becomes less dramatic, less powerful. Okay. Then the push-pull that's the distancing one. I'm sorry, the push-pull one is the push-pull protection. When pressure hits, I want connection, but I fear rejection. Ooh, I don't know about you. I've had that for a long, long time. I want the connection, but I don't want to be rejected. So I tend to move between wanting a connection and then fearing it. This often creates inconsistency and emotional overwhelm. How many of you say, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm so overwhelmed? This may be why. But practicing will help you feel safer and steadier when you are in a connection with someone, so you're not trying to get away, right? So can you see this one shows up here, this one shows up here, right? I want the connection, but I fear the emotional exposure or the connection, okay? Being steady, okay, so let's look at that one. The steady connection. When pressure hits, I stay more steady, connected, and intentional. It's like I'm a little bit more focused on what's going on inside of me instead of worrying about what's going on inside of somebody else or running away from it. I'm saying, okay, I'm feeling it. I'm exposed to it. I'm aware that it's happening. Now what? What am I going to do? Well, what happens is I tend to respond more intentionally, be more clear because I've practiced it. I got a set of a skill or a framework, and I can pull from that so that it makes it easier for me to participate with this other person. This often creates steady leadership and clearer decisions. Well, Lord, who doesn't want that? I mean, that is a really, really big deal to have a more steady relationship and clearer decisions. Because I think like most of us, we're feeling like, I don't really know what to do, or I trust myself most of the time, but in these kinds of decisions, I just don't. Why don't I trust myself in these times? Well, there's two different types of being able to trust ourselves. That is a video for another time, but just know that that trust isn't all inclusive. I trust myself a lot. I trust myself to go across the continent and walk El Camino de Santiago. I did research, but I knew I could do it. But at the time, 2015, and put me in a relationship with somebody, they had to act a particular way, or I didn't know how to be with them. That's a lot. I've come a long way, baby. I can tell you that. But I still run across things, right? But now I know what to do. And that's the piece. That's the piece. Okay. And so practicing, even being steady, we still have to practice a little. We still have to put it into practice, I should say. Respond with more steadiness and intention. Are we seeing that? Yes, we are. Okay. So the patterns of protection come from many years of things that we've done, or of what's happened in our lives. And we may not even realize that that's what's showing up. But I will bet for just about anybody watching this, there could be like, I'm going along in my day, everything's fine, and then something happens. And you feel, I'm going to use the word triggered. You feel triggered by someone or something. And it's like, that's it. You kind of lose yourself. You don't have the control that you had. It's not about controlling yourself. But up to that part, you're like happy-go-lucky and everything's going fine, right? Here and then boop. And it goes off the rails. So if you would like a copy of this, it's for free. I have the link in the description. But I put this together because I think people need to see it so that they have a sense of what's going on with them. I don't know how we can change if we don't know what the problem is, right? That's becoming aware and then knowing that there's more steps. But if you aren't even aware of like how this shows up in your life, then it may be that that will be very beneficial for you, because at least you can say, oh, I'm doing that again. I'm experiencing that again. And now you've got a phrase or a name or a word to call it. That is a big deal. Okay, so let me finish up. I want to tell you that it's not just important to become aware, and it's not important to just understand yourself better. It's the consistency and practicing of inner skills that allow you to recognize what's happening, how to pause, right? I teach how to pause. What does that mean? I teach how to do that in a way that's logical, practical. You write about it, like it's interactive. You like figure it out with my help so that you actually go, oh my gosh, I now know what it means to pause. That's not sitting and meditating. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's not journaling. Nothing wrong with that. Keep all your skills. This is just symbiotic to anything else that you would do. But once you have the skills, you don't have to depend on other people every time life gets difficult. It's like you learn what to do. You learn them. So you trust yourself more and more as you work through it. All right, that's it for today. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Again, if you want the framework, the POP, I call it the POP framework. It's patterns of protection, not power. Where am I? Patterns of protection framework. This is the short one to just give you an idea. I do have more if you're interested. But for now, I will see you guys next week. All right, bye.